Hi, welcome to Story Time with Dave Booker. I appreciate you being here. We are ready to rock and roll. Today is small town law enforcement, where Talbot has another run along. So we're going to get into that. And we'll just start right now. Small town law enforcement. Lindsie McGovern was doing a ride along with Talbot. She was 13 and had aspirations of becoming law enforcement despite her mother's misgivings. Lindsie was determined and so fixated on her objective that, come hell or high water, she was going to be in law enforcement. Starting in the courthouse, he showed her the pages that what came in daily on crimes and criminals in the local area. Went over the daily taskings and inspections they performed before the routine part of the day even began. A lot of what we do is behind the desk. Paperwork is the most important and most time consuming portion, and most boring. After we're done, we'll head out and do a round in the squad car and then later on foot. Personally, I prefer walking around. It gives people a chance to talk to us. Lindsie watched as the paperwork was dealt with. She had thought that a sheriff spent all his time walking or driving around and catching criminals. In the squad car, they drove slowly down Main Street. Lindsie was peering out all the windows, intently, anxiously looking for anyone committing a felony. She screamed in delight when she saw someone in a blue shirt and jeans dash across the middle of the street on the other side. He's jaywalking! That's a crime, isn't it? Are you going to run, man? She looked, she looked wide-eyed at Talbot. Talbot had seen Rocky dash across the street, but what he saw that Lindsie didn't was a reason. As they approached the spot where Rocky crossed, he pulled over. Lindsie was elated. Are you going to put him in cuffs? Talbot pointed across the street. Yeah, but look at the reason why he ran where he did. Rocky was helping Mr. Cooper up and sitting him on the bench. Poor guy had tripped and blood was soaking into his dungarees. He pulled up his pants to show a bad gash, which Rocky was patching up with a couple of clean handkerchiefs. Finished, he checked if Mr. Cooper needed a ride home and waved Talbot over. Mr. Cooper was effusive in his thanks to Rocky for his aid and to Talbot for the ride. After dropping him off, Talbot turned to Lindsie. So, think we should go back into town and give Mayor Stone a ticket or put him in cuffs? She slumped in her seat. Well, guess not, but he was breaking the law. Talbot shrugged. True, but the reason was more insufficient. See, there's something called the defense of necessity law that's been around for a heck of a long time. Morgan used to drill into me that if someone does something small, sometimes even a big thing that's against the law, but for a good and beneficial reason, and the law sometimes wasn't broken, just bent. She contemplated the phrasing. The law wasn't broken, just bent. Well, I guess that's not a bad way to look at it, but how do you know how far to let it bend? You just have to use your best judgment. Not everything we do is as simple as black and white or yes and no. We're here to serve and protect just as much as to keep the peace. If you're too strict, people won't trust you, and we need them as much as they need us. Talbot also offered suggestions on traits to work on. One of the first things Sheriff Morgan taught me was that a sheriff or deputy needs to be observant. You gotta see when things are out of place. For instance, Josh, a friend of ours, he was a deputy for a short time. He had been told that, and when he saw someone trying to abduct a young lady, he knew because something seemed wrong. The man was holding too tight, and the woman was trying to get away. Her hips were to the side, more than in line with her shoulders. Something so small made an impression on him, and he ended up saving her life. Of course, he also ended up marrying the woman, who happened to be someone he'd known and cared about since they were kids. She looked up with a worried expression. Well, if you rescue someone, you don't have to marry them, do you? Talbot laughed. No, but sometimes it works out that way. They were surprised when someone in an older car sped past them. Get him! She yelled as Talbot flipped on the sirens and lights and tore off after them. Lindsie was in ecstasy, thinking Talbot dragged the man out and put him in handcuffs. Talbot passed the man, waited for him to get behind him, and then sped to the hospital. As he drove, his face was taut with apprehension. Lindsie held on to the door, telling, What's wrong? Well, look at the passenger. She's leaning back, and every few moments she leans forward. Man's wife is going into labor. We're either going to get them to the hospital in time, or you may be pressed into service helping me deliver a baby. Her face paled at the thought. Well, can't you go faster? She asked with a great deal of urgency. Ella made a sharp turn and she was slung to the door. I don't dare. He's falling close behind. If I have to slow down or stop, he needs enough time to brake, too. Called in over the radio for the emergency room to stand by with a stretcher. They had a maternity case coming in hot. They just made it to the hospital emergency room. The woman was laid out on the stretcher and wheeled into the hospital. Talbot called to the man that he'd parked the car. Lindsie went with him. Ooh, why is there water all over the floor? Talbot chuckled. Our water must have broke at about the same time you sped up past us. Her water? You mean that's baby water? Yep. I'm going to grab a couple of those towels in the back seat and lay them on the floor. They must have known this was going to happen. After the car was parked, he reached over for the mother's suitcase and brought it to the father. From the emergency room came the sounds of straining that set Lindsie on edge. Father introduced himself as Jim James. Talbot placed an arm around him and handed him a cigarette. The smoke helped him to calm down, and he sat facing the door, wishing he'd go in, and a little thankful he couldn't. Lindsie could hear the woman in back. The straining and cries were getting on her nerves. Talbot patted the new father on the shoulder. Hey, give us a shout and let us know how they are. Oh, and let us know if you're a father or a mother. Will do, and thanks. It was touch and go there if you hadn't led the way. In the squad car, Lindsie was looking at Talbot. That sounded like something my dad would have said. I wonder if my mom sounded like that when she had me. Talbot grinned at her. Yeah, probably. That's what it sounded like when Michaela gave birth to my son. Darn, I'm glad he was a boy. I'd have made a terrible mother. Lindsie was still thinking about the way the mother sounded. I gotta start being nicer to my mom. For a few hours, they drove around until it was time for lunch. As they sat at the hot dog hut, she ate with a disappointed face. Oh, we were out all morning and didn't arrest anyone. All that stuff in the historical building fake or something? Talbot sighed. She really thought in a small town like this that criminals were everywhere. Nah, it's not fake. It's just that, well, some days are busy and we do have to handle criminals, but most days we don't. And those are days we usually. Let's try it again. Some days are busy and we do have to handle criminals, but most days we don't, and those we do are mostly out of town. But the day's still young and you may get to put the cuffs on someone yet. She clapped her hands enthusiastically. Feels like it's still early, but we've been busy, haven't we? You know, some days are like that, and some days you're so rushed off your feet you never check a clock. You never know what's headed your way. So a newspaper story where you saved a kid that had been stolen from her parents. What'd you see that made you decide that you had to do something? I would cast his mind back. Well, it was a few things. The way the parents held on to her when she got out of the car started me thinking. They blocked her from getting out until both could take a hand. Then there was the way they looked at us, opposed to how the child looked. Didn't seem quite to fit. There were other things too, small, but there, that just didn't add up. Called a gut feeling. I enlisted the aid of one of the waitresses to get the kids safe in the bathroom while I had Morgan come in as backup. Lindsie, I could very easily have been wrong. Lots of times you have to make a decision fast without enough information. I always had my fingers crossed, so I'm making a good decision. I went back to the car and sat inside for a moment. Talbot thought for a moment. How many people were outside of the hut when we were there? She thought. 9, 3 women and 6 men. Talbot nodded. Good job. That's being observant. Keep practicing so it becomes second nature. He went past the park and headed towards the farms. At the corner where the town ended and the farms began, Lindsie asked Talbot not to move yet. Talbot looked where she was looking. There was a movement in the long grass as though something small was making a direct line for the road. A brown nose peeked through and looked across the street and barked. Lindsie pointed. That's Mr. Ladle's dog. Talbot agreed. Seems like he's keeping good watch on the place. Lindsie cocked her head slightly. I don't think he's watching. I think he's talking to us. Talbot crossed the street and parked. The dog barked louder and ran in circles. It hollered off, then raced back and tore off again and raced back again. Lindsie was the first to respond. She crawled through the fence and began to follow the dog. Sheriff, he wants us to follow him. Something must be wrong with Mr. Lidl. Talbot leapt over the fence and chased after. At the farm, Mr. Lidl was outside at the bottom of the steps. It looked as though he'd fallen, but not as far as Talbot had first thought. He carried the man inside and laid him on the couch. As he placed the arm over the chest, a small band came into view. It had the name of his doctor. Talbot called over to him and explained that Mr. Lidl had been found outside as if he'd collapsed. The doctor had him find the test strips to check his blood. Talbot had to use a pin to draw a large amount, put it on the strip, and wait for the color to change. A little over a minute later, he had the result. Paper is showing light green, so he must be very low, about 20. Okay, you'll send an ambulance? Yeah, of course I'll stay with him. Should I try and get some apple juice down him? Yeah, you're right. He probably would choke on it. Okay, I'll stay here and wait. I'll call you as soon as he's picked up. He turned to Lindsie. Well, we wait for the ambulance. Talbot pulled up a couple of chairs beside the couch, and they waited. Mr. Lidl's son drove up. He had been passing by and saw the sheriff's car and couldn't imagine what had brought them. Talbot gave him full particulars. I'll stay with Pop. I'd imagine you got plenty of other things to do. Can't thank you enough for being here, though. What brung you, I can't imagine. Talbot pointed to Lindsie. She saw his dog and deduced the dog wanted us to follow him. We did and saw your dad lying at the foot of the stairs. She hadn't noticed the grass moving like it did, and we might have drove right past. She did a great job. Mr. Lidl's son thanked her and pulled Talbot aside. I'd like to put her in for that humanitarian award. Do I call the civic council? Yep, that'd be very much appreciated. By the time they arrived back at the office, Mayor Stone was waiting for them dressed in his official blue suit. The photographer was standing by as Rocky asked Lindsie to step up next to him. Lindsie, normally I'd like to wait and give out awards and testimonies at the socials, but I feel this is too important to wait. Will your picture in the paper and a plaque on the wall at the Historical Society suffice until the next social? She stared open-mouthed. A moment later, she recovered from the shock. Sure thing, that'd be great. In that case, allow me. Oh, dang it. In that case, allow me to present you the official Stevens Township Life-Saving Medal in honor of your life-saving efforts for Mr. Lidl. The picture was taken with Rocky and Talbot and duly placed in those locations as promised. At the next social, she would be thanked again in front of the town. All right, that's it for today. Next episode. Yeah, right, sure. The next chapter is a farmers festival that we'll be reading Friday. So that's a fun one. That's a little unusual, a little different than our normal festivals. So I look forward to reading that to you. Hope you'll be here and hope you enjoy this chapter. I look forward to seeing you again on Friday, 10 o'clock. So be good and be good to yourself and have a good day. Bye-bye.